If you're already doing the math in your head, wondering whether you have enough, you have probably also told yourself some version of this. One more year. One more year of savings. One more year of salary. One more year before the number finally feels right. And from a spreadsheet, another year of working will usually look better. But I want to push back on that today because the research says that for most people, that one more year is costing you something you cannot get back. I am PJ Gibbs, a financial advisor and the founder of Trello Wealth. And on this channel, I help people figure out what financially ready actually looks like in real life. Today, I'm walking you through the 5 reasons you are likely ready to retire sooner than you think. And by the end, I think you will see that the biggest risk is not retiring too early. If all that sounds useful, go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. One of the first things I try to get people to understand when we start working together is that retirement isn't a single phase. It's actually 2 or 3 different phases that look almost nothing alike. There are the active years when you have the energy to travel, to chase grandkids around the yard, to actually do the things you've been putting off. Then there are the slower years, and eventually the difficult years. The trap that one more year thinking sets is that it assumes all those phases are roughly equivalent, that a year of retirement at 66 is basically the same as a year of retirement at 72, but it's not. According to a 2025 study published in Nature, the average American has a health span lifespan gap of roughly 12 years. That means the last 12 years of your life, at least statistically speaking, are spent with significant health limitations, reduced independence, or both. And here's what that math looks like in practical terms. If you retire at 65 and live to roughly 85, you have about 20 years, meaning a portion of that, maybe the entire last decade, will not look like the retirement you're imagining right now. The window between 60 and 80, those approximately 1,040 weeks, that is the window. That is when most people have the health, energy, and ideally, the financial flexibility to live on their own terms. Every year you delay past the point of financial readiness is a year you are trading from that window, not adding to it. The families I work with often come in having thought of retirement as something that will happen eventually. What shifts the conversation is when they start thinking about it as a window that is already open, one that will not stay open indefinitely. That reframe alone changes everything about how they prioritize the next decision. So where does one more year actually come from? Because I think it is worth being honest about this. It is not usually a math problem. It's a behavioral one. The 2026 EBRI Retirement Confidence Survey found that the median age workers expect to retire is 65, but the median age retirees actually stop working is 62. Nearly half of retirees retired earlier than they planned. And for about 3 in 4 of those, the retirement was something outside their control. A health problem, a layoff, a caregiving responsibility that they didn't see coming. Only about 5 to 6% of retirees end up working past their originally planned retirement date. So the people telling themselves one more year are imagining a control over timing that most people, at least statistically, do not actually get. But even for the people who do have the choice, who are financially ready and physically able, the one more year pattern is driven largely by loss aversion, the fear that something will go wrong with their portfolio, the discomfort of stepping out of a role that has defined them for 30 years, the vague feeling that the number just needs to be a little bit bigger to feel safe. These are not rational financial calculations. They are emotional responses to uncertainty, and they have a real cost. Behavioral finance researchers call this a form of sunk cost thinking. The idea that because you have put so much into your career, into building this financial life, you should keep going even when the returns on that decision are diminishing. You are trading your remaining healthy years for marginal portfolio growth you will likely never even spend. That is a trade most of my clients, when they actually sit with it, don't want to make. There's a fear a lot of people carry into retirement conversations, which is that stopping work will somehow accelerate physical or mental decline. I get it. Work provides structure, social contact, a reason to get up. So it feels logical that removing it would create a vacuum. But the research actually runs in the other direction for most people, particularly for people leaving stressful or demanding careers. A longitudinal study of Swedish adults tracking the same individuals across 9 annual waves found that after retirement, people reported improvements in life satisfaction, quality of life, depressive symptoms, and disease burden. Not universal improvements, but average improvements across a large population. And the people who saw the most pronounced benefits were those who had been in high-stress jobs and retired voluntarily. A broader review of 15 systematic studies on retirement and health, summarized in Greater Good magazine, found consistent evidence that retirement can reduce depression risk and improve overall well-being for people who are ready for it. Now, I want to be fair here. This is not a guarantee. People who retire without a plan for their time, without social connection, without something they care about doing, those people can struggle. I've seen it. Sitting in front of a TV every day is not a retirement plan, and it will not feel like one after about 3 months. But the people I work with who retire with intention, who know what they're retiring to, not just from, who have relationships, interests, maybe a passion project or some volunteer work, they tend to feel physically and emotionally better than they did in the final years of their careers. Work after a certain point starts taking more from you than it gives. When that happens, staying becomes its own kind of health risk. According to Northwestern Mutual's 2026 Planning and Progress study, the average American believes they need $1.46 million to retire comfortably. That's up $200,000 from the prior year's survey. And while that number gets a lot of attention, it almost completely disconnected from what any specific person actually needs. The magic number problem is that people anchor to a round, fear-based figure rather than their own spending reality. And when the target is abstract, it is very easy for it to keep moving. You hit 1.2 million and you think, well, 1.4 million would feel safer. You hit 1.4 million and 1.6 million starts looking appealing. But that is not financial planning. That is the one more year trap dressed up in a spreadsheet. Let me show you what the actual math looks like. Picture a couple I will call James and Karen Mercer. James is 63 and Karen is 61. They have 1.35 million saved across their retirement accounts. And Karen has a modest pension that will cover $1,800 a month. They think they need $2 million before they can even have the retirement conversation. But when we actually map their spending, the real monthly need in retirement is about $7,200 after taxes. Karen's pension covers $1,800 of that. So the portfolio only needs to generate about $5,400 a month, which is roughly $64,800 a year. At a 4.8% withdrawal rate on 1.35 million, they can cover that need from day one, before Social Security even begins. And when they both start Social Security at 67, the portfolio withdrawal drops significantly. They are not at 2 million. They are financially ready right now. The number they were chasing was a fear number, not a math number. The families I work with who are approaching retirement often discover, once we actually build the plan, that the real number is lower than the one they've invented in their heads. The 1.46 million average that gets cited in your surveys is not your number. Your number depends on your spending, your income sources, your timeline, and your tax situation. And in many cases, that real number is already in the rearview mirror. Okay, this is the one that I think matters most. And it is also one that gets talked about the least in retirement planning conversations. Most people frame retirement as an escape, as if the goal is simply to stop doing something they don't enjoy anymore. And early in your career, that framing is understandable. You happily trade your time for money because you have plenty of time and you need the money to build something. But as you get older, that trade starts to shift. You need to prioritize time and health over accumulating more of a number you will not spend. When that shift happens, the question is no longer, am I done working? It is, what am I going to do with the time that I have? Financial independence, in my view, is not going to sit on a beach or play golf every day. For some people that sounds wonderful, but Most people get bored within 6 months. What financial independence actually is the ability to focus on what matters to you, whether that's income producing work you choose rather than work you were stuck in, or a passion project, or volunteering, or just being present for people who need you. Now, before anyone gets upset and says, PJ, some people genuinely love their job and should keep working, I hear you. That is a real situation and one that I respect. But there is an important distinction between working because it's meaningful and because you are afraid to stop. The first one is a values-driven choice. The second one is the one more year trap again. According to the 2026 EBRI Retirement Confidence Survey, 39% of workers now say they plan to retire at 70 or even later, or possibly never at all. And yet the median actual retirement age remains 62. That gap between what people say and what actually happens is partially explained by involuntary circumstances, but it is also a signal that people are deferring a life they want without a clear plan for when they will actually step into it. Your relationships change in retirement. You have the time to show up for people in ways that work would not allow. Your own sense of purpose shifts because you get to choose it rather than have it assigned to you. That is worth something. And it is worth something you can put a number on. But it is also worth something you can't, which is time with the people you care about during the years when your health actually allows for it. It is important to have that purpose and drive, regardless of your financial status. The goal is not to simply stop working. The goal is to make sure that whatever you are doing with your time reflects your actual priorities, and that money is in service of that, not the other way around. So here's where we landed. Your active years are finite and already counting down. The one more year pattern is mostly behavioral and not mathematical. Your health is more likely to improve than decline when you retire with intention. The number you think you need is probably a fear number rather than your real number. And the most important retirement question is not when to stop, but what you are stepping into. If you want to find out whether you are actually ready right now, complete the Retirement Readiness Scorecard linked in the description below. It takes about 5 minutes and gives you a clear picture of where you stand today. And if you want to take a more personal look, you can also schedule a call with me directly at the link in the description below.